Be not afraid, it is I, Angel Wolf, here to grant you the Christmas miracle of Wolf and Powell's best of the year, mainly because I couldn't be bothered to make another fucking video. Ooh, I'm a ghost now. Anyway, like and subscribe so my parents will love me. Bye. For the Orca section of this video, I debated on whether to have Shamu, the original icon of SeaWorld, or Tilikum, so I decided to settle on the one who'd killed the most trainers. If that hasn't made my stance on whether orcas should be kept in confinement and perpetual torture, then please allow me to make myself clear. Fuck them trainers. Yeah, all of them. Yes, I'm sure they loved animals, blah blah blah, but if you're going to keep an animal that should literally travel the world in a small glass container and then proceed to do jumps off its head, then quite frankly you had it coming. It's a bit like doing somersaults onto landmines or sending your children to religious Sunday schools. What did you think was going to happen? Next up we have oh no, hold on, I've got more shit to talk on orca trainers. Trying to ride on the back of an orca is a bit like drumming Slipknot onto an unexploded bomb, or simply going to O-Block. But really, imagine the audacity of seeing the world's most premier killer machine and think, you know what, I'm going to make it jump for a hoop and make its life miserable. Shoto is also considered a V-singer, something that was surprisingly common the more I delved into the subject. In Shito's case, I think it's quite charming, and he sings in kind of an ASMR way, not to be confused with ALS, which is what God gives you in the next life if you watch Vtubers. Next up, we have Headhunted in Another World, from Salaryman to Big Four. Oh, where's my pillow? I once headhunted in another world, but apparently that still counts as soliciting prostitutes. Marvel Rivals, the same thing I say before doing a backflip, is a hero shooter with all our favourite superheroes. I personally love the idea and welcome the opportunity to be pounded by Captain America. With that being said, I can't glimpse a fucking thing about this show from this poster, so I'm going to let Future Wolf elaborate. Thanks, dickhead. Honey Lemon Soda's plot is so boring to me that I'd rather drink all of the titular Honey Lemon Soda so long as it was mixed with industrial concrete mix and glass. Negative Positive Angler, which was how my doctor indecisively read my AIDS test results, is about a student stuck in debt until he picks up fishing as a hobby. In this blatant attempt at fishing propaganda, they laughably have the anglers remotely resemble attractive people, a piece of misinformation so egregious it can't be published in Europe. Chile recently held a large gathering of Michael Jackson impersonators. Much like a group of geese being called a gander, a group of wolves a pack, a group of Michael Jackson impersonators is known as a sex offenders registry. Next up we have Hamza, who streams on Bilibili, which is the sound those pages made in the Middle East before they exploded. Hamza, it must be stated, is Chinese. That's not the joke. This was a clever way for the Chinese Communist Party to find out who needed their social credit bottomed out at the depths of hell. The one thing that I commend Hamza and many Chinese streamers for, please don't murder me, is the lack of stupid animals, besides of course catgirls. With the largest population in the world, and thus the highest density of degenerates, catgirls are bound to appear in the same way that seagulls gravitate to fish and chip shops, and internet personalities to miners. It was weird to see Korean people so angry with this attack on their constitutional values. I'd only expected this level of bloodlust from BTS's foreign fans after they witnessed the half-naked, oiled, supple body of Woo Jin. I don't even know if there is one called Woo Jin. I just made him up. But 90% of you just went along with it, you racist. I'm not even using the image of a BTS member. That's just one I found after searching Twink Korean. That's not even a joke. Look, it's in the top images. I'll give you a few seconds to open up a new tab, type in Twink Korean and check. No, go on, I'm serious. Uh-oh, pervert alert. Look at this deviant googling Twink Koreans. Whoop whoop, officer, right here. VTubers have to sort of do these teaser trailers where they do something called debut. Before I show you what these look like, I want to get serious for a second and remind you of some legality. In 1987, in accordance with Article 27.1, the UN General Assembly adopted into law, in regards to Article 5 on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that no one should be subjected to torture, cruelty, degrading treatment or punishment. With that being said, watch as this law is utterly shattered.
Come to my debut!
Distilling a personality over a span of a minute is an incredibly difficult feat. For people like me, however, you can simply roll a piece of text repeating the word dickhead and that would suffice just fine. These carefully crafted features for optimum viewer engagement led me down quite the rabbit hole. My YouTube algorithm is, I can say with complete certainty, totally and utterly fucked. My research for this video has had my feed absolutely inundated with these debuts, which are as close as you can get to sarin gas poisoning without doing a war crime. It's said that during the horrible treatment of the prisoners of Guantanamo Bay, that even the guards who were fine with daily beatings and tortures were asked by the CIA to make detainees watch debut videos, to which the guards said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that's too much. We'll just stick to pulling off nails with pliers, thank you very much." As technology exploded into the modern era, new creatures began to emerge. Using face, body, and most importantly, titty-jiggling physics, the era of VTubers has truly blossomed, and by blossomed, I mean like the first opium harvest used to make heroin. Fast forward 150 years and we have Harambe at Cincinnati Zoo. This is a sad story and thus it requires proper backing music. Harambe, there he was, minding his own business, doing gorilla things I presume, when a child fell into his enclosure. To quote-unquote save the child, Harambe was shot and killed. You may not be aware of this, but I was actually there on that day at Cincinnati Zoo and promptly went to the ticket office to rightly request a refund. I was quite startled to learn that everyone else that was there with me was saying that they were traumatised by the killing of Harambe, but more so, the mortal peril faced by the child. Whereas I believed it was totally part of the show, and I was disappointed to not see Harambe swing the child around its head like a rally towel. It was unfortunate that Cincinnati didn't have any stand your ground laws, where you're entitled to defend your property from home invaders with deadly force, but it wasn't really a surprise to see Harambe ultimately being shot, on account of being black. It turns out that the Irish Catholic Church was not particularly happy about this year's entrance because of so-called demonic horror imagery. This naturally rubbed them the wrong way, as they are the ones that are usually giving children nightmares. Don't joke about Gaza. Don't joke about Gaza. The Israeli performers seen here bathing in the warm glow of explosions emanating from the Gaza Strip. Oh, shit.
That's right, the actual ship.
We can go.
Where's the other person? There's only 3 of us here.
Yeah, Chutney's fuck. Lambo's outside. Ah! What the fuck? Ah! I've never yelped in my life.
What are you laughing at?
Let's just go. Let's get the fuck out of here. Let's go. Let's go. I have never screamed like that in my life.
Sorry, quick. You know this rain?
The Omen is about the son of Satan being born. Something my grandmother always said to me as she splashed this strange burning water onto my head. I was on a bus once and a child who was screaming was told by its mother, "I will get the man to hit you." I was shocked and appalled by this suggestion, as I was going to do it anyway. Father Wolf said that Carrie was the scariest film he ever watched, and even specified the scene in which he covered his eyes. I'm going to watch this scene and give my thoughts. I'm assuming that my father, and the entire generation he is from, if this is considered one of the greatest jump scares of all time, must be terrified by merely a low-flying pigeon or just a weird-looking dog. Mia LaRue, le meaning the, and rue meaning fat, but is apparently not called Mia the Fat like a 15th century count, has pulled out of Miss Universe. Something I'd never do. Mia the Fat is the first deaf contestant in the competition, and when asked about what it was like, she said, "What?" The elf girl's cat is actually an S-rank monster. I've got a couple jokes here besides her comically large tits, so let me tell you them. Considering other S-rank monsters such as Joseph Fritzl, Jeffrey Dahmer, and John Wayne Gacy, I can only assume that this cat has committed some unspeakable sex crime. Oh, here's another one. The idea that this cat is an S-rank monster means that the best way to get XP from him is to simply poison its whiskers. Ooh, I've got one more. The elf girl from Welcome to Japan Miss Elf has broken free from custody with the help of good pussy. Date Everything turns normal objects into potential partners. Over 100 of them, to be in fact. The obvious choice is Shelley the Shelf and Doug, your fear of existential dread. However, I won't be dating him, as my serotonin receptors have been fucking me for years. The structure itself may appear like a ramshackle piece of shit, and a mess of poles to the layman uneducated sorts, but this masterful piece of engineering went on to inspire the childhood classic, Kaplunk. Unnamed Memory Act 2 is the follow-up to the first season that follows the story of a prince who becomes cursed so that no fair maiden will survive bearing his child, clearly wasting the ability to nut in whoever he wants. He goes to ask the Witch of the Tower, and she says, "Well, only a woman of great magical power can bear your cummies." So he's like, "What about you, ooh?" And she says, "Maybe if we get to know each other." Notice his bulge. I like the way he's gonna be like, these fucking dickheads just left him to die. He's gonna scare the bollocks off him, watch. They're leaving without him! No, they're not. No, they are not. Fucking assholes. Look at... The first VTuber is apparently known as Kazuna AI. I actually saw this creature before when I saw a trailer on the PlayStation channel, and my reaction remains the same as it was then, aka, what is this shit? Thinking it was just a new iteration of Dance Dance Revolution, which surprisingly isn't that Fall Out Boy song, but involves silly cunts doing things like this. I'm going to cover the first VTubers I saw, and some of the biggest VTubers out there, and if you have any complaints about my comments, feel free to go down to the comments, or call 0800 go fuck yourself bozo. The second VTuber I saw was this Mothra looking ass woman known as Batara, appearing with Bricky after reacting to some of his Warhammer content. When I first saw her, my initial impression was ah! But it turns out it's from renowned horror artist Junji Ito. Telling a story about a young woman who begins noticing everything contorting into spirals, this doesn't really appeal to me as my life has been spiraling for years. We have a tense bro moment between Germany and Japan, and that didn't bode well for us last time. It's about two employees who barely know each other about to get married. Another arranged marriage anime. Indians rejoice. Hami Daishi Creative is about democracy deciding the most important position in the free world. Yes, that's right, a Japanese high school student council president. However, rather than the usual methods of Russian assets and bot farms influencing the election, they use a lottery, aka the shittest Euro Millions draw ever. Rumours swell and the new president must rely on her advisors who keep telling her to invade Iran. This, my friends, is what we call in the business as an absolute fucking stinker. Ranma Half is about a guy who when splashed by water turns into a girl. This opens the question of what is the definition of being splashed by water. In the case of urination, at what point does the liquid become water? Technically, as the piss stream is expelled, there is a line of liquid that connects to the body, technically making him wet. And if it doesn't, does the water molecules have to be over a certain amount to constitute water? If you extracted piss from the urea water, would he then change? Part 3 of Bleach the 1000-Year Blood War, which is also what women call the battle for menstrual hygiene, is more Bleach. Surprisingly, I'm actually up to date with this arc, and what I was... Oh, hold on, I've got more Ranma questions. In the case of diarrhea, which is mostly liquid, does that constitute getting wet? Anyway, Tetris Forever, the same thing a Tetris insurrectionist shouts before dropping into place and exploding, celebrates Tetris' history of being extremely fucking boring. Play Tetris online and prove once and for all that your wife was right to leave you. Gorillas, it must be said, are a fascinating animal. Prior to the invention of tranquilizers, there was no real way to defeat a gorilla in single combat besides a patchy gunship. I'd love to be a fly on the tree, as a British explorer promptly ignored the far wiser and more experienced locals, warning that a creature resided in the jungle that could literally rip them in two whenever it wanted. These explorers, who had defeated in battle nothing more dangerous than the field shrew or a vole, tried to take on this thing.
Oh man!
Gorgora is an English-speaking member of Hololive, whose natural enemy is propeller blades. She is essentially exactly what I thought VTubers would be. Seen here performing Take Me Out to the Ball Game with the same gusto as a dying gerbil. With an appeal of she's just a little guy, if you're older than 16 and watch her, I suggest that you microwave your hard drive before the FBI show up. In Notria, the last song, competing for stiffest gameplay since I found out porn existed, this game answers the question of what would Elden Ring be like if it was shit. We are boldly told that we will be shown what real horror is, to which I say they've never been to Doncaster. Ripping off the headset is a nice touch, as post-nut clarity makes me fearful for what I've done as well. Goat Simulator Remastered aptly presents Cash Grab Penitentiary, with appearances from Dead Jokes, Caitlyn Jenner and your dad. Black Myth, which is what I say to people who say that rice and peas is an interesting dish, is the launch trailer for the Dark Souls China, also known as Living in China, except without the iframes in industrial sweatshop accidents. Predecessor looks so bland that it makes the German people look fun. You'll notice at the end that the only strategy left is to show an abbed woman's ass, and by George it worked. Genshin Impact rivals Borderlands in games I couldn't give less of a shit about, but maybe I'll give it a go, in the case that I receive a massive brain aneurysm and become a complete fucking idiot. Mecha Break, which is what happens if someone accidentally knocked over this thing, is a mecha combat game. Add interior pilot reaction shots, and we're golden. Let's go play blackjack, fuck it. Alright, we're bust, let's go.
Right, let's go.
We lost everything.
Well, we fucked everything up there, so fair play us.
A herding game, which is what I thought was when your girlfriend shits in your bed. One last thing to note on Baywatch is how wholly unrealistic it is. As a connoisseur of Bondi Rescue, it appears to be missing an angry Australian sick of having to tell tourists to stop trying to drown themselves.
Spent 10 minutes explaining not to swim here, and you take them straight into where I told him not to.
Get out of the fucking water, you divvy cunt.
Over time, it was realised that real people actually have jobs, so they were incorporated into the various soap operas and dramas. These included lifeguards, doctors, nurses, police, firefighters, socialites, clergy, singers, students, gang members, prisoners, royalty, vampires, yes, vampires, farmers, lawyers, tycoons, paramedics, being Spanish, radio host, actors, flight attendants, demonic possession, and whatever the fuck Emmerdale is. The Birds from 1963, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, depicts the terrifying experience of going to a seaside town and subsequently being mobbed by seagulls. As the total opposite of Boy Better Know's Too Many Men anthem, the quantity of birds on screen is quite frankly staggering. I personally blame the success of Solo Leveling on the status window epidemic that we've been stuck with, like a baby left outside in the cold in a basket. If you like status windows in anime, then feel free to open up your own status window. I do it by rolling my eyes at you, scroll down past your terrible stats and ooh, what's this? There appears to be some sort of debuff. Oh, it's called being a fucking moron. The Purge is what I like to call cool kid horror. The type of film that the cool kids at school talked about and is exclusively watched by people who drink paint thinner instead of water. My Happy Marriage Season 2 is about an arranged marriage. We're fucking back, India. In this show, there are people who can see spirits, unlike me at a bar after I've had too many of them. This fun, jaunty tune will have the audience opening up the pit for the flute solo. Austria in 2003 delivered a classic, and by classic, I mean a classic case of where did all my PCP go, demonstrating that Austria isn't just fancy smoked meats, they decided to put a silly sausage on stage instead. Dave the Diver returns with more fun crossover games, including Crack Simulator Baloutro with easily the most fuckable clown since myself. Begone Beast, which is also what I say to the demons inside my head, is a co-op horror game where you fight disembodied hands. My favourite character is Fabio, a wheelchair-bound basketball player whose only weakness is a low fire rate and stares. Sorry about this one. Thunderbolt Fantasy, Lightning McQueen's autistic brother, is an anime about glove puppetry, which is also how you get your prostate checked for cancer. I'm going to attempt to read the plot synopsis, and you call the ambulance when you believe I fully had the stroke. Dan Fei and her brother, Guardians of the Sword known as Qian Jin Zhong, are pursued by evil Huan Gui Zhong, who seek to attain the sword for their master Mi Qian Hai. While her brother is defeated, Fei, who possesses the sword's ancient crossguard, escapes to find herself in the care of a wandering swordsman, Shang Bu Han, and a mysterious man known as Lin Xu Ha. I'm struggling here, who become her protectors from the pursuing Zhanggu Zhong. Shibuya Hachi, famed abandoned dog, gets his own show where he diabolically stops waiting for his owner by having the absolute ghoul of dying of old age. Ignoring Hachi's long-held desire to simply die in peace and live with his departed owner, he is cruelly resurrected and is forced to enjoy days out with his friends and other statues, including Abril Nelson, Martin Luther King, and Genghis Khan. Natsume's Book of Friends may be a difficult plot to understand for many of you, but I will do my best. So a friend is someone who likes you, and a book is something that people read. It appears to be about his mum snatching people's souls, so naturally I DM'd her immediately. Oh, I've got another Ranma question. So if he becomes pregnant when he's in the girl form, and then he turns back into the man, what happens to the baby? Does it just disappear, or does it sort of turn to dust like Thanos? Anyway, 7 Deadly Sins, I don't give a shit, is more 7 Deadly Sins. It turns out that all of the people still watching 7 Deadly Sins suffer not from lust, wrath, envy, greed, sloth, or gluttony, but the 8th secret deadly sin, simply known as being fucking brain dead. In possibly the biggest case of shitting the bed since me as a toddler, I couldn't care less about a series that possibly had some of the best first couple episodes in recent memory. After School Hanako-kun Season 2 follows up on the titular Hanako, a spirit that protects a school from occults and spirits. I'm personally glad Hanako was not around at my school when I was younger, as all you've had to deal with was me crying in the toilets for my mum. Hosho Marine is a full Japanese-speaking YouTuber, making my roughly 30 seconds of watch time even more harder to place on my list. Hosho, seen here suppressing Taliban positions, was first deployed to Helmand province in Afghanistan as part of Royal Marines Free Commando. On the basis of her military service, I've decided to not put her in the firmly shit category, but she won't be moving until she learns from America, and I tell you what. In my continued effort to alienate the exact people I want to watch my other videos, I'm going to rag on another Japanese VTuber. Kobo Kaneru, much like her outfit, is not too busy. With an avatar that looks like a cock pissing upwards and letting gravity do the rest, she does VTuber stuff, I guess. Here she is advertising a Kobo branded scooter. That way, as you commit knife crimes in London, the police know who to ram off the road the hardest. Placed firmly in the shit category on this clip alone. I was surprised when I saw a VTuber called Pecora openly stating that they work for USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Agency. I was shocked to see that USADA Pecora is her full name, but it made sense considering you need to be on drugs to enjoy any of this. Kazuha is our first husbando of the list, as girls need something to slam clams over too. His bio has an affiliation part that makes it sound like he's a member of the Bloods gang or Al-Qaeda. You'll notice that I'm being particularly nice about Kazuha, and that's because I recognise that insulting teenage girls' favourite VTubers is about as dangerous as flicking a polar bear's scrotum, aka something you only get to do once. I feel that we are about to see the first person enter the base level. This is due to a multitude of factors. The most important one is that she falls on her head, and that is universally funny no matter what.
Ta-da! Now we'll just watch this.
As unequivocally the VTuber incarnation of Mr. Bean, Fillion is capable of doing the impossible, and that's as a triumphant uniter, by simply using the word frick instead of fuck.
You frick! Oh, frick!
After thousands of years of tribal violence, empire invasions, conquest, colonialism, terrorism, deliberate famines, 2 world wars, and an often explosive relationship, if you walked into a pub in the British Isles and Ireland and said the word frick instead of fuck, only then would Ireland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland and England finally unite in the sole desire to beat you to death.
You can fuck off for a start.
Misaki, whose name I've just made up, dreams of becoming an idol, but she's shy like a rural hedgehog until she meets Kisa, a rough but nice girl, and another one who's weirdly quiet all the time. They create a girl group and sing about something with a strong hint of lesbian subtext, and it will kind of sound like this. Imano Timbai. This is probably going to need another live watch. Oh shit, the MC's outgoing. Points down for me. Ooh, longing embraced, lesbian subtext. Let's check the songs. Puniro is a cute slime is a heartfelt and moving journey of a slime girl seeking justice for all of the slime genocide of her people, perpetrated by the war criminals at Nickelodeon in the mid-90s. I'm sure it's going to be about a slime or something, but my one's better. For the British among you who may have misheard the title and thought I said Poon Hero, this sounds like a J quote.
One bent over the table here. There was one up here who I was fingering, and I was just toe fucking the one on the floor.
So, oh no, I've got more Ranma. Okay, so we have to question what constitutes getting wet, then we have to seriously look at how humidity affects his girl transformation. If we consider that parts of Japan have high levels of humidity due to its tropical location, then at what point would the water accumulation molecules in the air being caught in the fabric become technically wet?
I ain't no fucking thing. You can't scare me.
The blobe. Ah! Dude, what in fucking tarnation? Oh shit! Ah! Don't you say...
What was that?
That I didn't like.
What was that?
I just wanted to play a game with you.
No, we're doing it. We're sending it.
Come here, bitch!
If you leave them an item, they'll defend the item. Alright, let's head upstairs.
That's so much shit, though. Where is it?
I don't know. I think we just head upstairs. I think, I don't know how to get back to these idiots.
Dead?
I can hear them talking.
Did he hit the dead?
No, I can hear them talking.
Oh.
Ow.
Mimic.
No. Fucking idiot. Is it going to duplicate me saying that?
Hey, here, dead.
Oh, right. Okay, there is a mimic then. How do we get out of here? So I...
Stop, Jimmy, lad. Jimmy, honestly, I'll kill you, you know.
No, I'm not. How... Ah! Run! This way! Phil, this way! This way!
Lad.
This way, this way, this way. This way, this way. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Oh, the mimic! First up, we have Astrobot. Fly through the history and lineage of the PlayStation games and longing pine for the days when things went total shit. The Midnight Walk. In this new simulation of what hell British children must escape before breaking free of the womb, is a horror game, but it's all made out of clay. No word yet on whether this whole game is simply one of Wallace and Gromit's nightmares from eating too much cheese, but I'd put my money on it. With guest appearances from local crackheads and a giant cock, you have the option of playing in VR, something that I'm not stupid enough to do, as buying a PSVR headset over literally any other one on the market is the quickest way to achieve the clinical diagnosis of clinical retardation, now known as ID, or intellectual disability. Personally, I'd like to thank PSVR for helping me move on from my ignorance and using the proper terminology as not to offend anyone due to the connotations of the word being used as a slur. Here's a helpful chart so you can put yourself in the correct category. For reference level, here are PSVR owners. Here are Genshin Impact players, and controversially all sports game enjoyers, a place they proudly call home. I find the V-Singer phenomenon particularly fascinating, as I came across these clips of stadiums and events where you can pay good hard money to see absolutely fuck all. Mori Calliope, Kratos' daughter,
Calliope, where are you?
follows in the long line of VTubers seemingly being forced at gunpoint to make music. She appears to do advertiser-friendly horrorcore rap, which is a bit like a square-wheeled car or a pregnant virgin. Above all, I respect the hustle. Based. Dragon Age Veilguard has really done the impossible. If you approached a much younger version of me and asked if I could imagine not being excited for a new Dragon Age game, then I'd probably say, "Get away from me, you fat paedophile!" After the police interrogations and your sentencing was finally done, I'd probably say under oath that yeah, it was a strange question, but I think it would be weird if I wasn't excited. Hell is Us, not to be confused with Hell is USA, the same thing conservatives shout when they see a black person, is a first look and possibly the biggest misjudgment of priorities in human history. The narrator of this trailer, whilst we are inundated with the massacred bodies of a rural populace, including dumping in water, mass graves, and left in the streets to rot, she sees fit to complain that she can't go outside and play.
Mother said I couldn't play outside anymore.
Unless she intended to fetch the shattered remnants of a collarbone crushed by a T-72 tank, then she's shit out of luck. With a spectacular shift from "this looks quite interesting actually" to "ooh, this looks like total shit," we are shown the first enemy, and it has as many gaping holes as your mum. Arcade Chronicles looks to be a dark fantasy Shark Souls, where get this, it's a multiplayer game. This is a particularly dangerous concept for a game, as it's hard enough dealing with my own ineptitude, so now I must have to deal with a bumbling collection of I'm better now, intellectually disabled players, aka my friends. If I found myself in Elm Street and Freddy were to enter my psyche, he would promptly leave and never speak a word of what he witnessed to any soul. Much like a parent saying that bees are more scared of us than we are of them, Freddy, upon seeing my dream world, would flee to a far safer place, such as Helm's Deep, an active volcano, or Syria. The Conjuring, through multiple spin-offs, has created its own universe like the MCU, but exclusively for people who no longer eat jelly vitamins, but take diazepam instead. She just comes back, I hear you say, slurring due to your antidepressants. But that's the trick, you see. It's a ghost rule that after you are destroyed, you must take as much time as you need to maximise your sudden return with demonic energies. Appearing in a mirror once a cupboard's been closed, spookily appearing at the top of stairs, you get the idea. Then, as the haunted, you simply just immediately smash the doll again, and you repeat the process until haunting you is far more trouble than it's worth, as they run out of clever reveal ideas and simply leave to go haunt someone less fucking annoying. Nemu the Space Cat I have to be particularly careful about. The British and Argentinians have a very fraught relationship, I believe over penguins, and thus I will take a measured and diplomatic response when discussing their most popular VTuber. Only joking. This proved once and for all that Hitler did manage to escape to Argentina, as he's the only person in human history diabolical enough to come up with this thing. On account of speaking all funny, I can't really piece together Nemo the Space Cat. There is one big positive out of this, and that's the proof that Argentina is marginally less hostile than the vacuum of space. Being a part of the lewd streamers category, which to the layman may sound a bit more interesting, but what lewd means in the context of VTubers is what's considered risque to 8-year-olds. Namely, hand-holding and giggling at anything remotely phallic, which is what I've named my VTuber wave rollout. I can only assume that based on there being a funny moments video, that is just an hour of her absolutely fucking catapulting a seal. I thought I'd do another bloke, so here's Vox Akuma. In his bio it says he's part of the 4th Wave, which kind of sounds like one of those Russian Storm Z battalions wading into machine gun fire. He is apparently a demon from the past who once enjoyed great power, so of course I thought he meant Margaret Thatcher. But it turns out that VTubing in Korea is still considered quite niche. I was quite frankly stunned to hear this, but I quickly figured out why. Notable VTubers mentioned online is a K-pop idol group, because of course it is. Known as a Seagay idol and put together by a popular streamer through a contest, where I assume they fought to the death with knives. After watching and listening to some of their music, I came to the realisation that the South Korean government is fully responsible for their lack of VTuber scene. As diplomatic tensions and negotiations continue with North Korea, the top brass decided that so long as VTubers exist in the South, the North Koreans would rather eat bark and MDF board than unify as a single country. Singing at a pitch that only dogs can hear, K-pop, I can say, is 100% not my thing. But I say that as someone who likes music that goes ow, my throat. Naturally, I showed my mother this V-idol group, and all she did was nod and turn to me and say, "So are they ugly then?" Then she proceeded, wine in hand and dog in lap, to say how they shouldn't care what people say and they should let their music do the talking, firmly putting Mother Wolf in the based category. Alan Wake 2 DLC is great news. Alan Wake 2 was my favourite game of the year it came out, and it shows us some spookiness just in time for October. And yes, I'm capable of not being a sassy bitch for things that look good. The first update, known as Radical Reptiles, I thought was when the turtles... I don't know if I can get away with this. The first update, known as Radical Reptiles, I thought was when the turtles used their blimp to fly into the World Trade Center. You'd be incorrect in thinking that this is gameplay footage, as this is actually live action, where the cameraman simply walked around modern Russia wearing a GoPro. Kill monsters as you get perpetually shit-faced and huff petrol to make the pain go away. Future Folk Tales 2, aka What Will Happen to the Notorious Somerset Gimp, or Purple-Aki, is a Saudi Arabian anime. I was going to make a joke about the girl character not having any devastatingly sexy ankle on display, but it turns out my joke was right and it's covered, and that's far funnier than anything I could have come up with. Lastly, we have Project Melody. From my research, I can firmly conclude that it's not just radioactive substances that can obliterate your chromosomes at a molecular level, but VTubers as well. Project Melody enjoyers suffer the same level of brain damage as if they were dangled over the exposed reactor at Chernobyl. With an audience of entirely 14-year-old boys, I'm not going to deny that if I was 14 I'd be all over this shit, but on account of having a fully developed and admittedly already degrading brain, I don't really see the appeal, as you'd be surprised to learn that I have indeed seen a naked woman before, and all it cost me was pretending to be an artist and going to one of those classes. Ah, marvellous, my masterpiece is complete. Her fanbase is known as the Science Team, thus I can only make the deduction that due to poor ventilation in the laboratories, her audience has constantly suffered more brain damage, but this time from industrial fume inhalation. Oh, I've got another one. If he shits in the toilet and it splashes up, does that technically make him wet? Anyway, Dragon Ball Daima is latest in the Pillar of the Dragon Ball series, but this time Goku and his friends are turned into children, where I presume shenanigans will ensue. I generally think that this is so uninteresting that I'd rather dip my cock in yogurt and let seagulls pick it apart. The problem with me and Dragon Ball is that if I wanted to watch two people scream at each other, I'd just go downstairs to see my parents. The funniest part of the film is where we get to see an XL bully dog be a beautiful baby who would never harm a fly. Wolf, I hear you moan sensually. Why are you such a fearless stud? Good question, you. Enjoying horror is essentially self-torture just without the sex dungeon, thus making its enjoyers perverts. With that being said, I saved the scariest horror medium for last. Now, warning here, this is not for everyone. Love Island is a horror drama that has the unique feature in that it isn't the cast of the film that undergo the torture, but the audience instead. Featuring dialogue that could outright kill a vampire, no silver or garlic needed, the vampire, and also me, simply would rather turn themselves to dust and face eternal damnation than spend another second listening to any more. I need to have some words with the casting director, as I'm not entirely sure where they find the actors for Love Island, but whoever they are deserve 7 to 8 years in prison. Giving normal people the pretense to oogle at their bodies without any stigma, Love Island is essentially porn for cowards. Finland, seen here performing in front of the egg that everyone in the 80s sprang from, is performed by Windows 98 Man, but I think we'd all rather see Adele. Germany has one of my favourite of this year's entries, with their artist performing next to one of those lights that people try to climb on and it falls on their heads. Greece's performance is smoking hot, not because of any saucy dancing, but the actual fire hazard playing out behind them. In conclusion, the British Empire was largely a bad idea when it comes to international modern foreign relations. It turns out that oppressing people for hundreds of years makes you about as popular as child molesters or diarrhea.
Oh jeez, I can't make it. I can't make it. I can't make it.
How enchanting. Morsels. Two guys and a cat called Pippa present a game where you play as a mouse, making Pippa ostensibly a race traitor. The main character who is unable to properly communicate that he's scared and not suitably a magical treasure hunter, probably because he has the people skills of a cumsock. The main character, seen here doing the bored throne position like me when the poo won't come out. I can't speak Japanese, so fuck knows what this trailer says. Estonia in 2008 decided to do an art installation instead, depicting the 3 artists trying to flee from the nearest school zone before their probation officer notices. Moldova in 2011 decided to prove that garden gnomes are not just lazy layabouts, and that they also pursue musical passions outside of sitting still and being pottery. Poland follows in the artistic interpretation theme of this year's entrance by making an extremely powerful and thought-provoking interpretive dance of what it is like to be the seaman spat on the floor at an orgy. Portugal was rightly furious to learn that their seaman dance had been poached by those dastardly Polish. My favourite of all dramas and soaps, however, is the daytime classic Father Brown, about a Catholic priest who solves crimes in his small village in the 1950s. Wait a second, that sounds like Grantchester, which is essentially the same plot but with what people believe is a sexier priest. Obviously, I find this ridiculous, as Father Brown is the height of raw sex appeal. Next we have... Oh, you thought I was done with Father Brown? Fool. My favourite episode follows the plot where, get this, Father Brown battles the Illuminati. And no, I won't elaborate any further, with the only rule that manslaughter and murder is illegal. Get hurt? Well, tough shit. Remember, back then there was no ACL, MCL surgeries or ligament reattachments. You were merely sent to your nearest medicine man, and he would go into his big bag of tricks and pull out various herbs and tinctures and potions. Move past them all, take out a stamp, and put the certified fucked marker on your forehead. Blue Box, the alternate name for cinematic classic Blue Waffle, please don't Google that, is about a badminton player who falls in love with an older badminton player. This so far is the least realistic plot, as everyone knows that badminton players are incapable of talking to women. Using the visual style that I like to call dreamy lighting disease, we tantalisingly get to see a good sport be teased. Ah yes, badminton, the key to my heart, said absolutely no one ever. The tagline, blooming inside the box, confuses me, as I always thought that's when you put your flaccid penis inside a woman and just let it grow. Sorry, ma'am. Sword Art Online Gun Gale Online Alternate 2 answers the questions of what would Sword Art Online be like in an American high school. Len is back with her pink P90 and bunny ears, aka what the Liberals are doing to our military. Made by Aniplex, which is what you get when you suplex a girl in a maid outfit, my favourite part about Gun Gale is the concept of elite special forces getting their shit rocked by Zoomers in a cruel foreshadowing of World War III. Next up we have Kami Arabi God App Season 2. I tried watching some of the first season, but I saw quite possibly the stinkiest animation I have ever seen. I immediately got off on the wrong foot with the series, as they were calling their little killing game the God App, and everyone knows that the real God App is Little Plus. You Are Miss Servant is a strangely nostalgic title for me, as my mother has always called me something similar, namely, You Are Mistake. I was once offered the position to be a maid man, but when I turned up in the dress I was simply kicked out of the mafia. With the ability to change leaders with each age, it gives us a new possibility to create all manner of nightmare blunt rotations. Tales of Grace's F Remastered, the F I assume stands for fuck, is about bright-haired anime children with quite possibly the deadest fits I've ever seen in my life. Framed by Disney as a love story, reaching beyond the language and cultural divide of a warring people. In reality, she was abducted and stolen away to England at 14, the colonial equivalent of being promised free sweets in the back of a Ford Transit van. The worst part of her internment in England was having to rename from the cool name of Pocahontas to Rebecca, a fate worse than death. Taishu-era contract marriage is once again, as you can imagine, about another arranged marriage. Indians, you may once again rejoice. The will they won't they fall in love drama is slightly soured, as it only takes place every time he's back home and not committing horrific war crimes in post-World War I China. Legacy of Kain is back, and this time with even more unrealistic body standards. After achieving peak lockjaw from sucking, I presume, too much vampire cock, this classic game comes to both PS4 and PS5 on December the 10th, as I strangely impart actual information. Buy the LEGO Fortnite controller and put it in a time capsule. That way, future generations can study you and learn of what it was like to be a total loser. I've been a massive fan of the Dynasty Warriors series, and I cite it as the primary source of all of my bloodlust. Play as generic handsome Chinese man as you cut through sways of the CCP's enemies. Oh, my mummy's asking me for tendies, bye bye. Ride across beautiful vistas as I finally make my video game debut. The director wanted pensive yet threatening, and I think I really nailed it, thanks for asking. Obviously, this cameo takes my previous review score of the state of play from shit to okay single-handedly. It's difficult to cover the ongoing Gaza conflict without someone bursting in and saying, "Do you condemn Hamas?" So I make my stance and that of Wank News as a neutral party abundantly clear. Stop blowing up children, you cunts. Take that however you want and apply it to whoever needs it. Paul the Octopus was a very famous German, can you believe this, octopus that during the South African World Cup predicted Germany's World Cup matches perfectly and selected Spain as the eventual winners that they were. With such incredible powers of foresight, I did notice that Paul was pretty fucking quiet on German politics between 1939 and 1945. I've learned everything about the Lunchly drama entirely against my will. It's essentially about YouTubers making a lunch meal and then some people saying it's shit. That's about it, really. Featuring some of the biggest names in internet culture whom, quite frankly, I could not give a single shit about. Namely, Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, KSI, and Dan TDM. Quite frankly, I find this whole thing damn tedious, and if you don't think that's an award-winning joke, then you can fuck right off. Don't have the money to go to the Swiss Alps to get first-rate treatment with one of those fancy euthanasia pods? No matter. Simply get on your nearest megabus, go directly to London, walk up to your nearest band of hoodlums, and tell them all to go suck their nan. This has a 100% fatality rate, and your family can cash in on your life insurance policy. Remember, it's not fraud, it's clever. But the overriding theme that ties them is the act of having a valid excuse to punch that smarmy Tanner's son Gavin in the face after he called you a fop noodle in front of your dear Bernadetta. I will never forget this slight, Gavin. How I attended an all-guys mixer is presumably about Microsoft's failed streaming platform. A mixer for the Americans among us is not the blender that you use to make Big Macs liquid, but it's more like a group get-together where you make polite small talk and then I fuck the shit out of each other. But, the beautiful maidens have dressed as handsome men for some reason. Join our heroes as they debate the increasingly tantalising concept of getting pegged crazy style. Next up we have If My Wife Becomes an Elementary School Student. Naturally, this wins the episode's biggest sex offender award. In what's sure to be a minimum of 15 years in prison anywhere else in the world, I'm sure he's going to get a fine or at least a strong telling off in Japan. Kumbara looked like too much of a kid show to cover, but when I saw the premise of a bear who receives an SOS message from the internet and dives in, it was way too good to pass up. Join Kumava as he ventures too far into the internet and becomes face to face with a cartel beheading video, and also that guy who likes to swim in septic tanks, who I probably can't show, but I'll try. Next up we have Pochazu. I couldn't actually find any info on Pochazu except for this image, and I'll be damned if I let a bunch of fat round cunts take the limelight, as that's my job. Demon Lord 2099 I thought was how the citizens of Night City from Cyberpunk 2077 discuss my narcotic-fueled rampages in hushed tones under their breath. Turns out it's actually about a guy coming back as a Demon Lord, another trope we've heard way too much of. You know what? No one can write a story about being Demon King or Demon Lord anymore. We have to focus on far more important things, such as if Ranmok coated himself in wax and then it rained, technically it wouldn't have made contact with his skin, so could the transformation be avoided? Arafuta from Commonplace to World's Strongest, a title that British legend Eddie Hall should take legal action against, is, oh, fuck me, another class summoned to a world, but he's got bad powers and he gets cast away, and then he somehow finds a harem at the bottom of a dungeon. Okay, I'm quickly going to look up the synopsis for the first seasons, and yeah, I was spot on. With the express power in a magical world to simply pull a strap and let the 40 bang, our MC proves that he's based all of what he believes cool from early 2000s rap videos. Next up, we have a show that has a very relatable plot, specifically to 1.429 billion people, more specifically, India. I'm Getting Married to the Girl That I Hate is, you guessed it, another arranged marriage anime. Notre Dame is expected to reopen after the horrific burning death of resident Quasimodo. Rest now, my sweet prince. If this news hits Yorkshire, then we quite frankly face riots on such a monumental scale that they could be compared to a PUBG pre-game lobby. Thankfully, the people of Yorkshire have yet to learn about this crime, as it's still effectively the Dark Ages there. The police are believed to be in for a very tough interrogation, as the sister and her colleagues in the church are well versed in not snitching on people within powerful organisations.
What are you doing, Jamal?
Jamal stuff.
I think he means stealing.
Grave robbing.
That one might get cut.
Keep it going after you.
Just keep
Don't bring it to me, you clown.
Don't bring it to me, you clown.
Do you know what they say? Nothing compares to them blue and yellow purple hills.
I thought you were going for a black and yellow Wiz Khalifa reference at first.
Black and yellow, blue and yellow. Ah, you know what it is.
Serbia's entrant, seen here struggling to make her way through Mordor, is delighted to find that Frodo appears to have dropped the ring into a small crevice. Tea has become a fixture of British life, and what has historically made all of those horrific war crimes totally worth it. And much like modern sports, as time has progressed, so has cheese rolling, and with it the emergence of free schools of thought. The scuttler. Attempting to slide down on their rear, these contestants are an insult to all things cheese rolling, the lack of commitment to claiming the cheese, and more importantly, bodily injury for my enjoyment, makes the users of this technique objects of my ridicule. The second and most successful school is what I call the Looney Tunes technique, where participants will attempt to run down the hill and then promptly catch airtime and slam into a giant ball. This is a valiant technique and should be praised as such. The third and final technique is the Patrick Star, the act of hurling oneself too fast and too far, engaging ragdoll mode like it's Gary's mod, and letting God sort out the rest. Fortunately for the contestants, the local rugby team at the bottom dispenses cheese-based justice by stopping the cool chads and tackling those pathetic scuttlers. You may be wondering, what grand prize could one earn after attempting and winning such a glorious competition? Riches? Glory? Legions of admirers? No, you simple-minded fool. You win the cheese.
Yeah, did you guys remember that? It's like a guy who's like, he's like a former drug addict, and he finally like reconnects with his son, and it's supposed to be this like really heartfelt moment between father and son, and he
Jamal,
and he like cries really weird, and it ruins it, and it becomes a meme. Where he's like,
I've revived you, Wolf.
Somewhere deep down in my heart, I still love you. And he goes like, it's like a moment where it stops, and he goes,
Because I know somewhere deep down in my heart, I still love you.
Tom is standing in the worst fucking place, like
yeah.
fucking usual. Well, nothing we can fucking do. Tom's AFK in a dungeon.
That sounds
every
like
fucking time.
That sounds like a terrible anime title. He's AFK in a dungeon.
Right, let's kill this troglodyte quickly. Behind you, troglodyte.
Oh, damn. Oh, I did.
Let this split guy.
Wait, how did I get you up?
That's what you sound like. So what are we actually doing in that place?
We just have to walk to the end of it and go through a fucking door.
I'm glad to see you keep calm and rational about all this.
Fucking Tom leaving in the middle of a fucking dungeon. Why?
Splits rage compilation.
Why would you fucking do that? In the middle of a dungeon that spawns enemies. I know, I'm going to fucking walk away.
It feels like
Clown
someone was
show.
here just a moment away.
Absolute fucking clown show.
I'm back. What happened?
You fucking happened. I left you away in the middle of a fucking dungeon.
You missed a great split rage compilation moment.
Why?
Fucking dick!
It doesn't matter. I didn't call him a fucking dickhead.
Fucking clown show.
Clown.
You know, I'm dropping.
You two kill that one.
I'm dropping my backpack. I'm fucking swinging. Come here, cunt.
I'll have you know, I completed Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring. Yes! Dodge roll. This is my dex build. I've defeated one enemy.
Take it. He's got arrows.
arrows?
He's got arrows.
Yeah.
Do not go left. Do not go left. The mantis shrimp is there.
The shrimp. No, it's not a shrimp. It's a mantis.
That's why I said a mantis shrimp.
What?
Where did you go?
This is where me and Linda first did the business. I was plowing it crazy style, I'll tell you what. You wouldn't believe the hello.
Hi.
What a moment to enter into.
Thank you, Chuck.
I was just talking about when I was plowing my ex-wife Linda.
Hey, yo.
Yeah.
Yo.
What?
I apologise for my tardiness.
What? Swing!
But,
Swing!
So, you don't need to be sorry, bro.
Fucking swing!
There we go. You know.
If he's not locked onto you, shield boy, fucking swing.
No, mate, I'm on 25% health.
Bro, fucking eat something. God damn.
There's a vehicle of some sorts near me.
One just died.
Tracks, engines, like... What is that?
It's making a weird ass sound. I have no idea what it is.
Mimic it.
Hey, what to do? Humming. Can you bang it?
Should I disengage and go to Bob Kendraparelli?
Mimic it. First on the wank docket is news from the United States of America, which on account of how incredibly divided it is and how much everyone hates each other, I will simply refer to it as the States of America until the situation improves. The problem with America is that on account of it being the most powerful country in the world, the richest and most influential, what happens in their politics sadly affects everyone else. And we have to watch as people say, well, my vote wasn't going to matter, and then we're stuck with him for 4 more fucking years. Quite frankly, I understand the craze about Mudang, as he's quite possibly the tastiest looking creature since Ryan Gosling. Like, that's not even a joke, he genuinely looks delicious. As I'm a wolf, and thus my desire for meat is insatiable, Mudang has taken to avoiding his own reflection as I keep appearing them and getting closer like that woman from Insidious. Technically, I don't think zoos can be open on account of essentially being animal prisons, and if you're wondering, Mudang was imprisoned for tax fraud, as well as his propensity for violent bouts of rage. Real hippos are absolute killing machines. Mudang, however, has all that rage and just a widow mouth to chomp with. Hippos happen to be the most lethal animal on earth, bar me when I see curly fries, and as my research continued, it noticed that pygmy hippos have, and I quote, a promiscuous mating system, certifying Mudang as a fuckboy. Palworld comes to the Sony PlayStation, fresh off their recent lawsuit with Nintendo. Finally, a chance to point a musket and blow Pikachu's stupid fucking face off. Join Shadow the Hedgehog as he comes to the earth-shattering realization that he has massive hands and feet, and yet no massive cock to match. At this point, Sonic fans have been through so much that giving them something fun feels a bit like letting a horse have a quick last run around the paddock before it's finally taken to the factory and turned into glue. P. Diddy is back in the news, for his bail hearing approaches. Arrested for, I believe, every crime ever, Diddy has created the single most unifying moment in world history. Whilst war, poverty, strife are all endured across the planet we call home, regardless of our differences, we can all agree that this motherfucker guilty. He's apparently been trying to have people reach out to witnesses and victims to influence their testimony and create narratives for the upcoming case, something that notoriously innocent people definitely do, even on a jailhouse phone, coming up with marketing strategies to help out with the case. Personally, I'd like to offer my services to help Mr. Diddy with this campaign. Here's a billboard I whipped up a minute ago. 100 Girlfriends Who Really, Really, Really Love You fits firmly into the fiction category in your case. The only people, if you're wondering, who actually have 100 girlfriends are Chinese emperors and rappers. Call me a mystic, but of 100 girls, I bet he doesn't even smash a single one. We here at Wank News have been working tirelessly to track down and bring the culprit of this crime to justice. Enhance. I don't see it, boss. Enhance. Trust me. Enhance. There you are. I knew it was you, a refused claim for a child's cancer treatment. I should have known. There has been some criticism for people seemingly revelling in someone's death, and I agree, revels are shit. Celebrate with Maltesers instead. A suspect has since been taken into custody with possibly the most Italian name of all time, Luigi Manganiello, who might as well be called fucking Pizza Stromboli at this point. It's weird to still see him under arrest, as he has a very solid alibi of being with me in the wolf cave the entire time if anyone asks. His smile was when I showed him my neat little Warhammer figures I painted myself. She's recently launched a crypto coin of which people are now accusing her and her business associates of a pump and dump. Exactly how I leave single mothers in the early hours of the morning. My favourite RFK fact that doesn't fill me with as much impending dread is when he suffered from brain worms. I'm not saying that the worms are still in control, but if each household is mandated to maintain lovely nutritious soil with plenty of detritus, then there might be some clues. Speaking of detritus, up next we have Matt Gaetz. He looks like one of those stone men but made out of Botox instead of mineral. I can't decide on what's the biggest crime, alleged sex trafficking of a minor or how he looks. By these standards, I've devised a fun little game. Look up a government agency and come up with someone who's, based on what Trump's selected so far, a viable candidate. For the Department of Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, I've gone with the giant ship from Conker's Bad Fur Day. For the Department of Native Americans, I've gone with an even angrier Christopher Columbus. For the Peace Corps, I've gone with Khan the Betrayer. For the Kennedy Center, I've gone with a crooked Carcano rifle left smoking in the Dallas Book Depository window. For the US Mint, a lone Tic Tac. For the Department of Sewers, I've gone with Shredder. For the Office of Civil Rights, I chose the FBI agent who killed Martin Luther King. And lastly, on the Office of Violence Against Women, I've chosen Chris Brown. ReZero Season 4, or as I like to call it, ReZero. I lost interest after Season 1 as the level of simping was just too difficult to watch. My favourite part of the trailer was when it ended. What Quidditch actually equates to is sticking a wooden rod in between your legs and waddle running like those Titans on Attack on Titan, or when you tuck your penis back and pretend you're a drag queen. I'm Not a Robot is a drama about someone who's allergic to people. He is sent a prototype of a robot companion. But, it's not finished yet. Guess we're just going to have to pretend this woman is a robot until it's done, teehee. The most unrealistic thing about this drama is that the man didn't have sex with it within 14 nanoseconds after the Amazon delivery driver made him sign for it. Yeah, lovely. There you go. Oh, sorry, you need to sign this quickly. Oh, Jesus Christ! Seen as a coming-of-age ceremony and almost doubling as an ending-of-age ceremony of the Vine Snaps, it's a practice originating from the Pentecost island of Vanuatu. Lastly, wife-carrying, a sport none of you can play as you're all alone and need someone to love you. Peglin, which just so happens to be the main reason I can't go back to the nearby old people's home. Peglin is basically a pachinko game, which is essentially dickhead Pong. Wobbly Island, which is what they renamed Epstein Island after the bad PR, is a game about launching yourself out of a cannon and engaging in wacky escapades. Despite the aliens and ape battles, the least realistic aspect of Wobbly Island is a functioning house market. Pizza Tower shows easily the most identifiable sex offender in all of gaming history, until you realise that he's Italian and that's just how they are. Seirei Gensoki's Spirit Chronicles is what you would get if you take all original concepts known to man, set fire to them and then piss out the flames. The second season of any isekai is a difficult moment for the author, as they come to the sudden and catastrophic realisation that they have to write something beyond bumbling loser inexplicably becomes good at things and now gets attention from women. This seems to be one that you can only enjoy with a traumatic brain injury. Lyrical selection, aka what I have to do is to not say the N-word when singing a rap song in public, I think is another Magical Girl series. I could have actually looked up the show to make at least a half-hearted attempt at a joke, but it was far funnier to me to imagine an anime girl reading questionable lyrics, such as Yin Yang Twins.
ドロップイットダウントゥザフロワイフ You a bad bitch
Winning the hard-fought title of this episode's Wankest Title Award, The Most Notorious Talker Runs the Greatest Clan, is about a guy who can talk well, I suppose. The idea of being a notorious talker is very funny to me, as it sounds like he exclusively communicates through slurs. Magic Maker tells the story of a young Zinedine Zidane as he makes his way up the footballing ladder to the heights of the beautiful game, but first makes arbitrarily powerful magic. My favourite part of the poster is this girl, whose expression is weirdly real, and seems to say, what the fuck are you doing with your life, making videos as a fake wolf? I'm covering Mr. Beast lately, in the same way that a sniper looks an enemy commander through a scope. I find him fascinating, in the same way that conch snails are. Both have the same sort of startled expression of a dog who's just pissed on the carpet. Recently, an investigation into sexual misconduct and harassment in the Beast Lair, which you can't unconvince me is what his headquarters is called, that no evidence of misconduct was found, and yet a number of people were sacked. Interesting. That's a bit like going for a scan on your testicle, only to wake up hours later with the doctor saying, well, we didn't find any cancer, but we still cut your bollocks off. Stop asking questions and get the fuck out my office. Switzerland has made a strong play for the gayest song of Eurovision this year, something I believe they should award every year along with the winner. The artist Nemo makes a strong statement about personal identity. Personally, I think this is great, as once it was his father's time to find Nemo, but now it's time for Nemo to find himself. The worst mistake the British ever made was establishing the 13 colonies that would go on to eventually become the... Sorry, it's difficult to say. The United States of America. Not because we have to listen to Kardashian news entirely against my will, but because of their absolute barbaric treatment of innocent tea during the Boston Tea Harbour incident. The British people were absolutely outraged by this course of events, because we'd worked so hard to farm and obtain this most blessed of ingredient. And by farm and obtain, I really mean murdering the Chinese. The British at the harbour, who didn't immediately die from shock, attempted to heat up the water to make one giant cup of tea in a futile attempt to salvage those wonderful leaves. Albania's entrance, seen here competing for a loose ball, begins the list strong for contention of most leather on screen. I can relate to this next one. I fell in love with an Okinawan girl, I just wish I knew what she was saying. I too have struggled with this when talking to women, but rather than an accent or dialect, I just don't fucking listen.
On your feet, sir. The king isn't done with you yet. Hello. Enemy vehicle over to our 216.
Just whenever you are something.
I've spotted an enemy. Ow!
Oh no, fella.
It appears my brain has been shot out.
Get yourself off, friends.
Call my dear Suzanne and tell her I will not be back for tea tonight.
I'm afraid Suzanne has moved on.
Just getting ammo.
Oh, the absolute hussy.
Ready.
This one's for Thatcher!
Right side of
Watch out, there's a friend maybe.
I swear I've seen I've Had a Crush at Work, not on Crunchyroll but on LiveLeak. This one seems to be about an office romance rather than a horrific industrial safety failure. Actually, it tells the story of two office workers trying not to fuck each other's brains out as they politely keep their relationship secret from their co-workers. This is marvellously refreshing, considering that most rom-coms have dialogue like this. I know. Hi. I know. Hi. Even given the worthless appraiser class, I'm still the strongest. If you aren't aware, I actually have the appraiser skill. Let me activate it on this anime. Yeah, it's shit. 52-year-old civil servant gets placed into a role of an otome game villain. An otome game, for those wondering, is the socially acceptable version of hentai games, where the sexiest thing possible is an effeminate man leaning against you. Naturally, sticking to what I know, if I were placed in the same position in an otome game, I would use my British manners and morals, which basically equate to queuing and saying, "Thanks boss," as I get off buses. Flower and Asa is about a young girl called Hannah. She's noticed by the president of the broadcasting club, and she joins as she develops her storytelling ability to make content for her friends. Naturally, I think Hannah should stay in her fucking lane and leave the dumb funnies to me, a cutting wolf. It's a strange thing to have to cover the fucking Paul brothers again, but here we are. Facing off against retired legend Mike Tyson, I'm writing this joke before the fight takes place as proof of my incredible foresight. Anyone who says I simply edited the part out where I was wrong can shut the fuck up and stop telling everyone. I got round to watching some of the Tyson Paul outtakes, as I began to call them, the comedy of the evening peaking at Tyson's bare ass, as the fight was an bare-ass-ment. Another award-winning joke. In a shocking unveiling, the Vatican announced its new anime mascot, Luce. You may be wondering whether I'll be taking the high road and not making the obvious jokes about children being too close to priests, but that would not only make you wrong, but ugly too. Luce means light, the one thing that priests fear when the search warrant is finally presented for their basement. Luce is adorned in a nice little rain cloak to symbolise the passage through storms and the overcoming of adversity. I suppose it's a bit like dislocating your thumbs to get out of the handcuffs the cardinal placed on you. Next up we have a bit of Christian fan art. Holding a staff which I can't be convinced isn't a dildo, seen here stealing a baby from an abortion clinic, which I'm fairly sure is not how that works. The Catholic Church taking children from their parents only to traffic them? They would never do such a thing. Wolf, I hear you whimper, clutching desperately at your rosary. Will you stop calling priests paedophiles? And the answer is a firm no. The funniest part about Luce is the other Christian denominations getting all jealous and pissy that they don't have their own small child to purchase. Paul was later found dead at his enclosure shortly after the World Cup and the world learning of his incredible powers, and much like the death of Jeffrey Epstein, Paul the Octopus did not kill himself. After communing with the dead with the aid of my new spirit guide Paul the Octopus, Cecil is quite frankly not having a good time in Lion Heaven, mainly on account of being ruthlessly bullied by his ancestors for being killed by a dentist. Bingus, a beloved internet cat, has been having a long-standing feud with fellow internet cat called Big Flopper, both names sounding like what a hippie would offer you to put on your tongue at Glastonbury. Bingus is quite frankly a direct affront to God. Only the Egyptians, who were forbidden from harming cats in any way, would let this breed of abomination live to flourish. Looking like what would be cooked in Nando's and implanted with a little flag like Iwo Jima, Bingus recently had some children, who I assume are called Tingus, Pingus and Fabricio. Big Flopper is the closest you can get to having a puma in your house without buying overpriced trainers. In a straight fight, Flopper would finish Bingus in the same amount of time it takes for a woman on a date with me to go to the bathroom and never come back. Leica the dog was the first animal sent into orbit, much like Bingus if he decided to cross me. Dr. Stone is back for another season. I couldn't be bothered to check which. Based around some fucking science dork who aims to rebuild humanity using novel little inventions and knowledge, in a world where humanity was turned to stone. In the first season, they carefully considered who must be awoken to help push humanity forward, and out of the Stone Age choices, they went with things like manual labourer, a fighter, crafting expert, etc. This has led me to theorise on who might be my top 5 choices, which if you are wondering is Fabregas, the Vessel, the Green Power Ranger, Ralph, and the Wombat from the Compare the Meerkat adverts, exclusively so that it's me that gets to beat him to death. Bang Dream, which I wake up from sweating and lonely, is a J-pop idol thing, I presume. While Soraro Utility is about a young girl who doesn't want to be an NPC, so takes up golf for some reason, like that will fucking help. Now, not to cast aspersions on an entire sport, but golf rivals badminton and squash for the lamest activity possible, only beaten by people who actually spend money on OnlyFans. The Exorcist broke ground and not only its depiction of the paranormal, but the first known example of someone having a brat summer. The least realistic scene was the demon spider walking down the stairs and blood coming out of her mouth, and not a single person armed with the broom said, "Get off bloody carpet, you're gonna bloody stain it!" Running like he's rubbed deep heat cream into his asshole, much of the film revolves around running in corn and avoiding new metal. The recent remake has switched the oops, run out of gas, with influencers coming to renew a dying town, and I must say, I've never rooted for a killer more than my life. I feel like Leatherface would have had a far easier time by TikTok dancing into frame and masking his murders as the Chainsaw Challenge, and then watch them plunge onto the rotating teeth on their own free will. Spooktober rating, Texas sucks. Paranormal Activity is a slow build, a bit like an American putting together a Lego set. The film culminates in a drag scene, which is what the Conservatives have been warning us about. Honestly, the best part of the film was for the actors, who just got to have a nice kip whilst the special effects team did all the work. I want to escape from princess lessons is what a bratty bottom would say, but is also an anime. About a free-spirited duchess who is betrothed to the crown prince, but she'd rather jump in puddles and be a fucking idiot than queen. A position where she could literally do whatever she wanted. After showing up with some other hussy, she thinks the betrothal is off and bounces, only for the dastardly prince to still think the marriage is on. Ooh, the cheek of him. Sakamoto Days is the long-awaited adaptation about an old man who used to be a hitman, but now works in retail after promising his wife to never kill again. I don't know whether old Ethel who works in my local Morrison's used to kill people, but she's almost got me a few times by scanning my pizzas at a quite frankly fucking glacial pace. The concept of having a day where you can literally do whatever you want without repercussion is hilarious, on account of rich people having this privilege all the time. Saw is kind of like Home Alone if Kevin McAllister was forced to be homeschooled in Scunthorpe. By taking people who commit crimes like stealing from the Lidl bakery or jaywalking, whatever the fuck that means, he makes them face their crimes for redemption. The gameplay of PT involves going through a door, walking through a house, leaving the door, and then looping back to the start. Only Child Protective Services could understand the same feeling of repeatedly entering the same shithole through the same door, only for it to loop all over again. EastEnders is a soap set in the East End of London who had their own Who Shot JR, with the far more glamorous Who Shot Phil. I was surprised to learn that a gun was used in this attack, as usually when someone shoots in London they put on a little tourniquet first. Oh, my head. The healer who is abandoned by his party and becomes the strongest is another anime in the long line of shows attempting to give healers, aka gaming's biggest pussies, their own fan service and power fantasy. I joked last time that the shittest title I've ever heard was World's Greatest Talker came to lead the world's strongest party, but that record is quite frankly fucking obliterated by this word-for-word reading. Bogus skill fruit master, about that time that I became able to eat unlimited skill fruits that kill you. This alone caused my ghost from the horror movie video to reincarnate in a noble's body, find the nearest battlement, and then dive onto a guard's spear like a back alley doner kebab. I'm a noble on the brink of ruin, so I might as well master magic. Here comes another wolf prediction. He's raised a noble, has a beautiful teacher with massive tits, and there's a scene where they're like, oh, you are the fifth son, there's nothing to inherit. And he's like, whoa, how did I not see that coming? He begins training while the second oldest sibling is like, ha, he hasn't even mastered the fireball. Then he does it, thanks to some bollocks, and his older sibling is actually really nice and is happy for him. He sets off to find a harem and literally has no problems ever again. Causing me great confusion as I studied the map. Australia are allowed to compete in Eurovision, presumably because none of their artists are allowed to return to their country. This time on Border Force.
Is there a reason why you've got 15 kilograms of black tar heroin lined in your dress, ma'am?
In stark contrast, Coronation Street's main premise was having Northerners be miserable about their lives, but in pubs in each other's homes, a long-standing British tradition. Ireland is actually not going to catch any flack for sending us Jedward, as absolutely no Jedward slander is going to be tolerated on this channel, as I was there when Jedward was performing on stage and broke his leg, but finished the act nevertheless. Most normal people would have reacted like so.
Oh, you're right there, Jedward. No, I broke me fucking leg, you idiot.
I will, however, make fun of Ireland for sending out a turkey to perform one year, though we are yet to have Turkey send out an Ireland to perform, but I won't hold my breath. Legend of Heroes Trails of the Sky would get a sassy little remark, but the beat has me absolutely fucking buzzing. SpongeBob, the Patrick Star game, has you allegedly make sexual advances and tase people who say no. Oh, sorry, that's the Jeffree Star game. Civ 7 adds new leader Himiko, who shares the same expression as me when the fart came out as everything but a gas. Soap operas are what you get if you let people with too much time on their hands be entertained by people with not enough. Oh no, what do we do today? Quiet town in northern England. Train derail. Ah, genius. Deriving from the word opera, meaning a performance with multiple acts, and soap being the thing that my family forces upon me, soap operas have been a fixture of entertainment, the prime choice to fill slots in the TV guide. LEGO Horizon Zero Dawn. a game absolutely no one asked for or wanted, likely made to fulfill a contractual obligation made by their lawyers. Rune Factory, Guardians of Azuma being the target audience based on this abysmal fucking trailer, complete grueling manual labour, marry a child, and go directly to prison. Dan Da Dan, which is how nervous people try to call out to their mate Dan, is a show about two gooners where one of them believes in ghosts and the other in aliens. I'm Becoming a Villainess Who Will Go Down in History is a Margaret Thatcher simulator when our Tory main character attempts to be as evil as possible, but finds out that the prince seems to have some sort of evil bitch fetish. With quite possibly the most cardboard trailer I've ever seen, join our heroine as she gets soggy in the rain. Hyakusho Kizuku, which is what I say after sneezing, is about a manga author who worked on cows as both a farmer and a warehouse manager. If that sounds supremely fucking boring, then you'd be absolutely correct. On the 18th of August, 1894, crime was invented by John B. Crime. Prior to this, committing crimes was simply referred to as being a wrong'un.
Well, I'll get you, little shit, get back here.
Latvia makes a very bold artistic statement by deciding to show the harrowing depiction of hell that all bold people are sent to. Montenegro managed to somehow reach out and acquire the services of Louis Spencer's even gayer cousin.
And I've told you, sit, head roll, head roll, head roll. You've got to rehearse it. Or, what about the crawl? What about the crawl? You know you're doing the crawl and the contract relief, round, down, up, there.
Likewise, the British Empire declared war and subjugated millions of people around the world for the express purpose of gaining access to the most rich and expensive spices known to man. Modern-day British people honour this effort by using absolutely none of them in any of their dishes.
Oh, looks lovely, Sharon. Proper good scran, that.
K-dramas are what you get if you only hired people who had seen kissing but drawn by crayon. Italy's Angelina Mango, which is what sounds like my sister would order from a beach bar, is doing her best impression of what can only be described as the fungal growths from The Last of Us.
There's a wolf! There's a wolf! Get out of the way, idiot! You're going to want to see this, officer.
The Netherlands went for an artful approach by attempting to pick the exact source of all of my nightmares. I would make a funny comment about Norway, but I can't see what the fuck is going on. Unfortunately for Slovenia, Albania's stranglehold on the European leather supplies have really started to strike the other competitors hard, so Slovenia just decided to do away with clothes altogether. Also, she didn't want to pay all of the dancers, so they just drowned a few of them instead. The irony is the Natural History Museum, situated in London, contains more stolen goods than the Liverpool Council House, but it herself has had over 1,500 artefacts classified as stolen or missing. The skull of my great ancestor, Mahala the Great, stolen from my people, will be returned once more.
Watch out, lad. Don't forget the lasers.
Though, thank you, my good friend. They almost got me there.
Yeah, they got them in co-ops, no worries.
The British at the time claimed that it was their duty to colonise and educate the tribal and lesser peoples of the world to the civilised way of the West, which is wild because at the time the hovel was the height of luxury for the average Brit. This week on Homes Under the Hammer, Timothy Toolteeth and Margaret are looking for downsize from their one-room shack to a more cosy hole in the ground. Wana Harambe is a beloved Ugandan beetle who's been the national icon of the country for over a year now. Known for his cute antics on Uganda's social media site Kwele, he has captured the heart of the nation. And by capture the heart of the nation, I mean I completely made him up. Yet there you are, totally on board with Boo Boo. His full name, if you're wondering, means dumb bastard, and Kwele means really. This joke was purely for my enjoyment. Lastly, Grumpy Cat, who looks at you with the same disappointment your father shares after telling him that you don't wish to be an engineer, but wish to become a fun little mime instead. He's incredibly relatable, as he has the same expression that I would make after going all the way to SeaWorld and not getting to see a trainer die. Set in the fictionalised Chinese court where she is taken on as a maid after being kidnapped and solves mysteries thanks to her mysterious father's training and a handsome court eunuch. For Americans, a eunuch is when you have your cock cut off, but not in a fun trans way. Whether it means I hate her because she's mean or because she likes me, or whether it's more of a British school hate. A girl once told me, unsolicited I may add, that I was fat and ugly. I didn't even know her. So obviously I told people she had chlamydia and she cried, because it turned out it was true, blaming her friend for telling her most darkest secret. This little dive into the VTuber world has been extremely enlightening, so I've decided to incorporate as many aspects of these popular creators as possible as to capture their viewing audiences. Okay everyone, please huff paint now. May I introduce to you Wolf Chan, the King Shag.
こんにちは変態たち。生産的な仕事を過ごしていることを願っています。私は可愛い狼です。私の会社の支配者のためにあなたのお金が必要です。私と絆を築いてください。私を愛して。私にはあなたに歌を歌う法的義務があることをお知らせできることを嬉しく思います。聞いてください。さもないと彼らは私を撃ちます。つまり卒業するという意味です。私のストリームをご覧いただきありがとうございます。私の狼ブランドのフレッシュライトを買ってください。